So now guys, we'll get to our review for AFL Fantasy Round 9. Now, I wasn't able to do like a video for it, so thought I'd just put it in the podcast. Maybe we'll clip this up and put it as a separate clip later. But I've got this little thing here. This is basically my team from last week. Had an absolute deplorable week, unfortunately. Only 2,006, 38,000 rank. My rank dropped to 10,000. I think it was about 8,000 last week. Really disappointing. A couple of players to shout out who did well over the week. Max Holmes got back into some good form, which was good. Jake Bowie, 109, did nicely. Connor Rosie, of course, won the Showdown medal. Will Ashcroft, the Ashcroft brothers doing brilliantly as well. Captaincy worked out in the end for Max Gorn. Had a slow start, but did work into it. Bailey Smith, what a season he's having. 149, top scorer for AFL Fantasy over the weekend. But because of such a poor week, we have to mention the lesser lights. Jordan Dawson, shocker in the Showdown. Got shut down really well by Miles Bergman, though, so credit to Bergman. Merritt got 80 against Sydney. He was tagged out of most of the game from James Jordan. So just a couple of tagging roles, really. And Nick Dacos, the same, was tagged out of it from Fremantle. Just couldn't get into the game, unfortunately. And then, obviously Clayton Oliver as well. Weirdly was used as a tagger. Don't like that role for him at all. And then a couple of the rookies, unfortunately, just didn't do well this week. Xavier Lindsay, 44. Davidson, 62. Sanders, 69, not great. And then Caleb Daniel had an absolute stinker, 57. You would have thought he would have had a pretty decent week, but unfortunately not. So with that being said, let's get to my trades for this week. So I have got rid of Clayton Oliver for Andrew Brayshaw, and I've got rid of Sam Davidson for Mateus Filippo. So got rid of, I know I've said quite a few weeks in the reviews for AFL Fantasy that I'm trying to get rid of rookies first and then look at getting other players in my field out. However, Clayton Oliver's role as a tagger, not for me. Sorry, I'm not using that at all. Now, I don't know if he's going to be continuing that role, but before the tag and before he was dropped the week before, well, not dropped, but just didn't in the team the week before, he wasn't really doing that well anyway. So I'm kind of happy to move him on. And I've picked up Andrew Brayshaw. Now, the reason for that is because Fremantle have a bye only with one other team. So I think it's in round 13, I believe, with St Kilda, which we'll get to in a second with Mateus Filippo. But I want to try and get, if I can get players like Fremantle and St Kilda players, that would be really good because obviously with only one other team having to buy that round, I can then use those players through the other rounds where I may have other players that I've got more buys, more teams have got more players from teams that I've got buys. So that's where I'm kind of looking at here. That's why I picked up Brayshaw, one of the highest scoring players this year as well. So it was pretty nice as well that I had the money for him. Now, I got rid of Davidson. I think that he's he's definitely priced out now. He's starting to lose cash, and I had a choice between him and Sanders. The reason why I picked Davidson is because I think Sanders has more likely to score well. Now that I've said that, Davidson will get 120 this week and Sanders will get 50. But overall, I think that's the right choice. And the reason why I picked up Mateus Filippo is obviously the preseason that he had. Everyone had him in his team. Got an injury to his femur, I believe, and missed pretty much the first half of the year. Comes in last week against Carlton, scores 73, but did not have a single CBA the whole game. And I think if he can start getting his match fitness up, to not have any sort of midfield time and still get 73, kick 2 goals as well. If he can get back to that form that we saw in the preseason, get some midfield time for the Saints, I think he can definitely skyrocket. So this is a little bit of a gamble. I could have gone a little bit higher and gone to Luke Jackson because I think now that Darcy is injured, that Jackson can score well. However, I'm going to give the faith to Filippo. I think that he can score well, and I think it also means that I can save up some extra cash because the next couple of weeks we have the 3 trades coming up with the buys, so that's why I'm kind of looking at that as well. But pretty happy with my trades right now. Looking at my team going into next week, at this stage, I've got my captaincy on Harry Sheezel with them going up against the Tigers. We saw Ryan Marrick last week as a halfback do really, really well. And I think that Harry Sheezel, and I think a lot of halfbacks will be doing really, really well against Richmond this year. So if Harry Sheezel can do that, that'd be nice. But I'm going to put my vice captaincy on Jordan Dawson. I don't think Collingwood are going to tag by any means. The midfielders will go head to head. It could have been either him or Nick Dacos. However, I do think that we did see last week when Zach Butters got off the chain a little bit that Peatling did go to him. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Crows go with a tag on Nick Dacos with Peatling. However, I'm more likely thinking that they will go head to head, but just because there is a little bit of a chance that Dacos does get tagged, that's why I'm leaning towards the vice captaincy on Dawson. Merritt is also an option as well because they play the Bulldogs, but pretty happy with that at the moment. Those are probably my team going into next week. And one last thing we'll take a look at is the league view. So looking at it right now, I am in 38th spot. Not good enough. Don't look at me for AFL Fantasy, guys. I am useless. But the person up the top now, we have a new clubhouse leader. It is Lenny. Holy shit, I can't see shit. I'm going to try and zoom that in for you guys. There we go. Lenny. So Lenny is in the top spot. He jumped right up after a really good week. What did he get last week? He got 2,143, so not too bad. He is ranked 544 AFL Fantasy around the country. He sits in top spot right now. Timber, the Cheetah Cubs, he was on top for, I think, 3 weeks in a row. Unfortunately, he has dropped down to second. And Pub Feed with Sauce, I always like to mention him. Unfortunately, he was number one for the first round of the AFL Fantasy. He sat at top of our league, top of everyone. Unfortunately, he's dropped down to fourth after a pretty poor week. I mean, I'm saying a poor week, and I got worse than him. So, not the greatest from Pub Feed with Sauce, Lucas, but I'm sure he'll be okay. Hopefully, he still finishes top 5 in our league. My brother, there he is there at 23. He got 2,127 over the week. His rank has dropped right down. He was in the top, I think, 1,000 for a few weeks there. Dropped down now to 23rd spot. But like I said, I am in 38th, I believe. Yeah, I would be in 38th there. So, not the greatest. I feel like I should be doing a lot better. Hopefully, with the buys coming up, I'm planning for my buys. With the buys coming up with the trades, I'm planning them out. So hopefully I can get my team right up and going towards the end of the year.